All right, people, call your next witness.
People's next witness will be Michael McStay, please.
Do you solemnly state the evidence you'll give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name, spell it for the record.
Michael Matthew McStay, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, M-A-T-H-E-W-M-C-S-T-A-Y.
Okay, you may proceed.
How are you today, Mr. McStay?
I'm good, thank you, sir.
Tell us a little about yourself. What do you do?
I design and engineer fire sprinkler systems, and I install them in commercial and residential properties.
How long have you been doing that?
Since, I think, 2003 or 2002.
What did you do before that?
I built fountains with my brother. We had a little company in San Clemente called Naturally DP Fountains.
I'm sorry, naturally.
DP stood for Dana Point because it came out of my brother's and his first wife's retail store, Naturally Dana Point. And my brother and I started the business together.
And when you talk about fountains, building fountains back then, what are we talking about?
We built little tabletop feng shui fountains made from a California gold pan bowl. Different tiers of slate that we would hand. We had templates we would hand form cut. And I would bevel by hand. And I did all the production and manufacturing of the fountains. My brother ran all of the accounting and packaging, but I basically built all the fountains.
And what time period did you do this?
When I moved back from Kauai, I want to say it was around 98. I think we January of 98, right there.
Well, hold on. This begs questions. Why would you come back from Kauai of all places?
It's a long story, but yeah. Reluctantly, I came back.
And how long did you build fountains and sell them with your brother through that store?
We had a little shop in San Clemente, and I would say like through 2000, I think. 2001, we got into a litigation and ended up losing the business as a result. So
What did you do after that?
I went into my apprenticeship for fire sprinklers.
And how long does that take?
5 years, over 8,000 hours, or 4 years, depends on how many years, 4 to 5 years, basically.
And after you finished your apprenticeship, what did you do?
I started my business, well, first I had to pass the state's contractor's test. And got my license in November of 2007 and started my company. My brother actually he gave me the bump start to start my company.
Oh, how much was that?
He gave me $2,000. He said I would be his best investment ever.
That wasn't a Donald Trump startup then, obviously.
I guess not.
Not $10 million? No. Okay. And backtrack a little bit. The apprenticeship you did, was that with another company or contractor at the time? Is that?
Yes, I worked for one of the largest non-union sprinkler companies in Orange County. We had about 6 or 7 subsidiaries, and I ran all of the. I was the head guy in the field of installing all of the installations, not the service, but the installations. Hotels, Quiznos, Starbucks, all the Home Depots.
So in 2007, you finish your apprenticeship, you get your license, and you start out on your own with $2,000 from your brother.
Yeah, I was working in San Clemente one day, and I called him and said, "Hey, I'm down. Let's grab lunch." He said he didn't answer his phone. He called me back, and his first words out of his mouth were, "Are you tired of building another man's kingdom?" And I said, "Look, man, you go on your own. There's a lot of money. I'm raising a family. this right before the crash too. This is. And he said, well, what would it take? I said, I don't know, at least a couple of thousand. I would need to get my study for my test. I would need to get some things. I have to start a fictitious business. I got to pay a fee to the state to get So I said about $2,000. So I showed up for OC Tavern for lunch, and there was an envelope sitting on the counter, and he said, you're going to be my best investment ever.
And at least for your business dealings, the rest is history, right?
I made it through 2009 and 10 and all of this, and yeah, I'm still kicking.
And you're still kicking. And so you still do that to this day?
Yes, sir.
And what kind of company, in the sense of size and scope and activity, are you running today?
I pretty much just have a couple of guys that help me. Pretty small outfit compared to, but pays the bills. It pays for a family.
You're still located in Orange County?
I'm okay.
No, I mean, you're still located in Orange County, working?
Oh, yes. Yeah, primarily we do, along the coast, we do a lot of houses, probably 40 houses a year.
So as a sole proprietor, you're responsible for your couple employees and books and keeping your license up and all that, I presume?
And the janitor and everything else.
You're not the janitor also?
I am. I wear many hats.
Does that keep you pretty busy on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, sir.
Has it kept you that busy on a day-to-day basis since 2007?
Yes, sir.
How long a days do you tend to work?
Well, it just varies, but I work a lot. I mean, after I've worked in the field all day, I've got to do plans when I get home if I got new jobs starting, so I put in some time.
So it would be fair to say that, at least the work side, your life is pretty busy and has been since 2007.
Yes, that's fair to say.
So let's add a layer onto that. You said you were raised in a family. I think you have a family.
Yes, sir.
I won't ask you to get into specifics, but I assume it involves a spouse and some kids.
Yes, sir.
A dog or two, a cat or two.
Yes. Up on the beach.
Do the dog and the cat get along?
No.
So which one has to stay outside?
Well, the cat kind of stays to herself right now. She just...
Okay. So does that add a lot of complications and busyness to your life since 2007?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in that time, well, I guess, let me ask about this other aspect of your life. Aside from your spouse and the children you may have had or have, what else is your family unit composed of at that time in 2007?
In 2007, remember if I had 3 daughters. I had my business. I was married to my first wife at the time. And then when I had any free time, I would try to serve. I played guitar for 27 years in the church. So
Were your parents local?
not at that time, no. My mother was, I can't remember, Corona or Gore. She moves for her work a lot.
But she was in Southern California.
She was in SoCal.
Okay. She wasn't in Hawaii or Europe or South America, right?
She was either in Corona or Oxnard or Agora or wherever she was at.
Okay. What about your dad?
My dad's been in Houston since we moved to Dallas when I was a kid. He's been there 30-something. 30, I don't know, a long time.
So he was not in your immediate family picture in Southern California in 2007?
No.
And I'm sorry, your dad's name is Patrick?
Patrick, yes, sir.
And I take it, did you have any siblings?
I had one brother, my older brother, Joseph.
So Joseph was your older brother.
Yes, sir.
By how many years?
3 years, 2 months, 3 days.
And did you always look up to him?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Sorry.
Okay. Take your time.
See, it was worth it.
Well, we heard he fronted your money to start your business.
Yes, sir.
Was he a giving person?
Yes, sir. Kind.
Was he hardworking?
Yes, sir. Very smart.
And at that time, around 2007, what did you understand Joseph's life to entail? If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, he was had two little boys, fresh family. He was, he got a new lease on life, if you want to say that. He was pretty busy as well. I mean, his kids were little and full of energy, so he had a lot going on.
And, well, you said a new lease on life. Are you inferring the fact that he has a new wife and two new kids?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so that would be Summer, Gianni, and Joseph Jr.
Yes, sir.
Okay. He was previously married, correct?
That's correct.
And to whom? He just first name's fine.
Yeah, Heather.
To Heather. And with Heather, when were they married and how long were they married?
Oh, gosh. They were married, I think, 8 years or so.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I think they were married about 8 years, or give or take, 8 or 9 years. You'd think I would know this, but I can't remember what month they got married. Joey was young. He was, I think, about 24. I think Heather was 21, and they were still finishing college. I mean, I took some classes with them at Satellite back then.
Okay. And they had a child, Jonah, correct?
Yes, sir. Jonah.
And Jonah in 2007 was living with Heather.
That's correct, yes. And her new husband, Mike McFadden.
Okay. And up until 2010, Jonah was living with mom and stepdad.
Correct.
Okay. So the new nuclear family, at least, that involved Joseph, involved Summer, Gianni, and Joe Jr.
That's correct. And I believe Jonah visited from time to time.
So I want to start with some particulars surrounding that later time period in 2010. You're in Orange County, right?
Yes, sir.
Where was Joseph living, let's say 2009-ish, in that time period?
He had moved to Fallbrook, but he had a short stint where he lived at my mom's place in Corona. That trilogy, I can't remember the name of the place.
Is Trilogy the development?
Or the golf course, I really don't know.
Okay, it's not a town, right?
Yeah, it's Temescal Canyon Road right there.
Okay, so she lived in a housing development, let me guess, built by D.R. Horton.
You'd have to ask my mom.
Okay. But off of 15 in Corona,
Yeah.
Glen Ivy area.
That's correct.
Okay. The Trilogy's not a town, correct?
I don't think so. I think it's a development.
Okay. And so I want to backtrack from that point. We heard from your mom just a few hours ago that prior to moving into Fallbrook, Joseph and Summer and the kids had stayed in her house. Where were they before that?
They were in San Clemente.
House, apartment?
Apartment on Caprio.
And how long had they lived in that apartment, do you remember?
Quite a while. I mean, it was actually my mother's little apartment prior to when she moved out. They took it. Joey took it over, and I want to say since my first marriage, I'd say about 99, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember, with any type of precision, the time period from which they left the San Clemente apartment to move into Fallbrook with the intervening time at your mom's house in Glen Ivy, Corona?
I'm not sure. Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry. I didn't-
About when did they leave San Clemente apartment?
Oh, I want to say around Halloween time, fall of '09.
And hey, the way you phrase that, I take it you're giving us your best recollection estimate?
Because of, yeah, I've got some, yes, that's correct.
You didn't write down the dates, did you?
No, I didn't write them, no.
Okay, you didn't keep diary?
No, sir.
Okay. So around that October-ish, Halloween-ish time, they moved to the Corona Glen Ivy mom's house trilogy, right?
Correct.
Okay. And this was while they were waiting for escrow to close on the Fallbrook house. Is that what I understand?
Yes, sir.
So then they move into the Fallbrook house. Do you remember when about that was?
I don't know exactly. I just know that I know they had Christmas there. I don't know if they had Thanksgiving there. And I've seen pictures of them at Halloween. They were at my mother's. So somewhere at the end of fall of '09.
Again, that's kind of the best precision you can give us since you didn't take a diary day by day of what happened.
I had a lot going on.
Okay. And during that time period, 2009 into 2010, how often were you in contact with Joseph?
Usually, towards the end it probably fell off a little bit, but usually once a week. He played in a soccer league in Lisa Viejo every Friday. And he would usually, even when he moved to Fallbrook, he would call me usually when he was commuting up there. And then I would realize, oh, it must be Friday, you're going to soccer.
So you at least talk by phone periodically as much as once a week?
Maybe, yeah. Usually, sometimes more, sometimes less. Usually once a week or a couple times a week, depending.
Well, you both had busy lives going on, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't necessarily live right next door to each other, did you?
No, sir.
Joseph play a lot of soccer?
He was good at a lot of sports. He was an avid surfer, soccer, basketball.
And up to the point they moved into Fallbrook House, he was continuing to play in the soccer league?
Yes, he played in that league for almost 9 or 10 years.
Sorry, while I turn my back on you while I look for something.
It's okay.
I will be semi-rude and ask you a question while my back is turned. During that time period of 2009, end of 2009 into 2010, were you familiar with the vehicles that Joseph had?
Yes, sir.
And how are you familiar with what vehicles he had?
The 2000 or the '99 Dodge Ram we bought together for our first fountain business, the green one, that he pretty much drove then. But then he got the Isuzu Trooper later. But I wasn't aware of the arrangement on who drove what. So, but I know they had the Isuzu Trooper and they had the Dodge Ram.
So you were aware of a Dodge Ram and an Isuzu Trooper, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know from your experience during that time period which vehicle Joseph tended to drive most often?
I did not at that time.
Once they moved, Joseph and Summer and the kids moved into the Fallbrook house, did you have an occasion to go to that house?
I had never been to the Fallbrook house ever, except for the 13th.
Okay. So up until then, you had not been there?
No.
Okay. show you a couple pictures, if I may. I'm going to show you exhibit number 141. For identification, do you recognize the vehicle that is portrayed in that photograph?
Yes, sir.
And how do you recognize it?
That was the Isuzu Trooper. That was one of their vehicles.
Mr. Jackson, can we switch to it? How would you come to see Joe with this vehicle during that time period?
During the time of the Fallbrook time, or
The end of 2009 into 2010. Had you seen him driving in this vehicle?
I hadn't seen my brother since they moved into that home, so.
Okay. Had you seen him driving that vehicle prior to them moving to Fallbrook?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when would that be?
In San Clemente, before they moved.
Okay. Let me show you exhibit number 20. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes, sir.
And how do you recognize it?
That was our house in Fallbrook, 3473 Avocado Vista Lane.
So, first of all, do you recognize any of the vehicles in that photograph?
Yes, sir.
And which ones do you recognize?
The Dodge Ram, the truck.
That is the Dodge Ram truck you referred to earlier as flying with Joseph when you were building tabletop fountains in Orange County.
Yes, sir. We were so scared to sign on it because we were going to have to pay like a $320 a month payment. But we did it. We did it.
Was that the first car you guys ever bought?
It was just a big thing to do for us for starting a business and all that.
Was it the first business you guys had, well, was this the first business venture you had had?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. But starting this business is always nerve-wracking?
Yeah, we went to L.A. We did the America's Mart in January of whatever that was, 98 maybe, and had some did the show, sold some jobs, and went down to San Clemente, got a little shop, and filled the orders.
Sorry, I was making a note. Show you another photograph. Showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 171 for identification. I'm not sure that you would necessarily recognize any of that, but can you let us know if you do?
That's a car seat. I'm not sure. Oh, wait a minute. The orange and the white might be his soccer jersey.
Does that look like soccer equipment to you?
I think so, yes. Yeah, and that would might be. Yeah, I think so.
Is that consistent with clothing and soccer gear you may have seen your brother with at times?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Hold on. It didn't pop up for some reason. Hold on. Now you can see us somebody. Sorry. For the record that was the desktop. We could go soon. There we go. You know, I don't think I have a laser pointer. Does there happen to be one up here? I will have to bring one next time. If you don't mind me stepping up here.
Okay.
You mentioned orange. Is this the orange you were referring to?
Yes, sir.
Does that appear to be like soccer jersey, shirt, clothing type stuff?
Yes, sir.
Does that appear to be shin guards?
Yes, sir.
Does that appear to be cleats?
Yes.
Is that something consistent with what your brother would have when you would go play his soccer matches on Fridays?
That's correct.
Pointer up there by the door.
Thanks, Judge. So going back to, does your brother have allergies?
Yes.
Bad allergies?
He was real particular on vitamins and food and things. Yes, he would do chiropractic, just other things, whatever. Sometimes they flared up.
Well, I specifically asked about allergies. Did you ever know him to take like a lot of like nasal sprays or like, now I'm totally blanking on them, antihistamines?
I'm not sure if he did or didn't, but it's possible.
So let's talk a little bit about what at least you know, your scope of knowledge of Joe and Summer and the family. Okay? How well did you know Summer?
I didn't know her that well. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with them. I was busy. They were busy. So not as well as I would have liked to.
Sure. How long had Joe and Summer been married by the time they moved to the Fallbrook house at the end of 2009?
I think I would remember this. I was best man at his wedding. I can't even remember the day they were married. I thought it was fall of 2007, but so I would say 2 years maybe they were married. But they were together since I believe 2005.
So they were together since 2005-ish?
Yes.
Was that definite or an ish?
It's what I can remember.
The court reporter just got mad at me because I used the word ish. Sorry. Again, you didn't have a habit of sending them happy anniversary cards every year, right?
Unless it popped up on Facebook to remind me. I don't know.
Do you have any personal knowledge as to how Joseph and Summer met?
I don't know the exact story. I know MacGyver introduced them, from what I've heard.
We've heard that name before. MacGyver McCarter.
MacGyver McCarter, yes.
Okay. And who's MacGyver?
MacGyver was a friend of ours, or more of a friend of Joe's, more of an acquaintance to me. I mean, as you've heard, I think Dan slept on Joe's couch. Many people from time to time in their life would end up sleeping on my brother's couch. And MacGyver was one of them for a short stint, and they were close friends.
And around that time period, well, during that time period after Joe gets to know Summer and they get married and have kids, what do you know Summer's employment to be, her doings, anything like that? What do you know?
I thought real estate, but I knew she was raising the two boys and a stay-at-home mom at that point. That's about all I knew. I'm sure they kept sure the boys kept her pretty busy because they had lots of energy.
So, and I'm going to ask, was there anything that occurred between you and Summer that maybe contributed to you not seeing Joseph and the kids as often as you probably wanted to?
Yeah, we had a little family stuff, normal stuff, but towards that last part of the 09, I didn't see him as much as we used to. Joey would bring the kids over to the park by our house, and we'd hang out there, but there was a little bit of a rift, but I mean, it was family stuff, you know.
You and Summer had a falling out, didn't you?
Yeah.
Over some comments made at a family gathering, right?
Yeah, about my kids.
Okay. So you're a protective dad of your kids?
I am.
Okay.
And she's a protective mother of her sons, so.
All to be expected from parents, hopefully, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. But you didn't let that get in the way of you still having contact with Joseph and even the kids, as you mentioned, bringing them over to the park, right?
Correct. Yeah. So my kids could see their cousins.
So when we get to this time period of 2009 into 2010, what is your understanding of what Joseph's doing for a living?
Well, I knew he had started Earth Inspired Products years before.
How long before?
It was, I want to say 05-ish, around in that time. I think the original DBA was actually with another really close friend, Guy Joseph, which was another friend in San Clemente. And this would have been after we closed Naturally DP Fountains.
So did Joseph start up Earth Inspired Products shortly after ending the business with you?
Correct. He stayed on to try to. He stayed on probably a year and a half after, and then I think he did some electrical apprenticeship and that for a short while, and then or whatever he could do, and then they started EIP, or Inspired Products.
And what is your understanding of what that business was, Earth Inspired Products?
My understanding, and I had, I was running my own business and whatever, so my understanding was like an internet-based retail front where they would drop ship fountains to customers direct, and then they had a custom side where they would build. Joey would generate some shop drawings, and then they would build some custom features, custom water features.
And did you have any knowledge or understanding of whether or not Joseph had, over that time period from, I guess, 2005 to 2010, any business partners other than the ones you talked about with Mr. Joseph?
I had Webb Dan, but I didn't know the exact. I didn't know if Dan just did the website, or I didn't know all of the inner workings of his infrastructure. But I knew there was Webb Dan involved, and there was my brother. And then later on, there was Chase, I believe. There was Gina Watson worked for a company that I'm not Water Wonders, or I can't remember, but there were other companies that made fountains as well.
Okay. And I'm sorry, what's the connection between Gina Watson and this other company and your brother?
I know they talked quite a bit because my brother would order fountains through their company. They were one of the main suppliers, or primary supplier, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so Gina Watson and that company, what was the name of that company?
Water Wonders or something like that.
You have a puzzled look on your face.
I'm not sure if I know it, to be honest.
Okay, so this Miss Watson's company would actually build fountains that your brother would sell through his internet site.
Correct. He had a handful of companies that he sold.
When you say a handful, are we talking 6 or are we talking a dozen?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the total workings.
So that time it starts out as solely an internet retailer at that point.
Correct.
So he's buying stuff, from your understanding, from manufacturers, reselling them online
End users, correct.
to end users or purchasers. But I think more importantly, my line of questioning is not the gory details. It's more of what the extent of your knowledge. How much do you really know about that inner working of the business as it started in 2005 forward, other than what you've told us? Anything?
I have very limited knowledge. Maybe when I would show up at his office and see him or hear him talk, I really don't know how he structured it or how he ran it.
Let me interrupt you at this point. It's about 4:15, so we'll go ahead and take our evening recess at this time until 9:30 tomorrow morning. Just remind you not to read anything or listen to anything about the case. Do not form or express any opinions about the case. Do not discuss the case or allow anyone to discuss it with you or discuss anything about any of the people involved in the trial. And we'll see everyone back 9:30 tomorrow morning.